In this video I'm going to show you the 3 best solo builds and which one I think is the best. Let's start with a build that I almost never see used, yet for solo legendary content it is possibly the best build. Negotiator's Dilemma is a near perfect gear set. Its 2 and 3 piece bonuses work incredibly well with its 4 piece bonus, Hostile Negotiations. Mark up to 3 enemies and 60% of critical hit damage dealt to one of them is also dealt to the others. In addition, every kill increases critical hit damage by 2%, stacking up to 40% until combat ends. The backpack talent increases the damage dealt to marked enemies to 100% of the critical hit damage done, making it a must if you're able to tag multiple enemies consistently. The chest piece talent increases the number of marked enemies up to 5, which in theory sounds good, but in practice is hard to get the most out of. So go with the backpack, gloves, holster and knee pads of the gear set. Optimizing this build is simple. Get close to the 60% critical hit chance cap and then put everything else into critical hit damage. To do this, use a Seska chest for its 10% critical hit chance, a Grupo mask for its 15% critical hit damage, and a FAMAS with the talent Strain, which adds yet more critical hit damage. At full stacks, the build is running 57% critical hit chance and 283% critical hit damage. For the chest piece talent, Obliterate synergizes very well with this build. This is an all red build and so skills and specialization should lean into survivability. A Banshee Pulse for crowd control, a Crusader Shield if I'm caught out of cover, and the Gunner specialization for armor on kill. If you do struggle with survivability still, then swapping Strain for preservation is a good option. What makes this build so good for legendary content is that it adds AoE damage to your arsenal, reducing the chance that you will be overrun. While damage output is lower against individual enemies when compared to the other builds in this video, if you are tagging multiple enemies, this build is a beast. But if it is single target damage and big crit numbers on the screen that tickles your fancy, then Strikers is your go-to build. The Strikers gear set is all about landing shots quickly to build up stacks, which amplify your weapon damage to deliver huge single target damage. The backpack talent Risk Management increases this to a 100% amplified weapon damage buff. The chest piece increases this again up to an insane 200%. But while the backpack is a must, for solo players I wouldn't recommend using the chest piece. To get 200 stacks typically means using an ACS 12 like this rock and roll at very close range to open, and as a solo player that is going to get you killed far too often. So I'd recommend using the backpack, gloves, holster and knee pads of the gear set. For the chest and mask, the same pieces as the Negotiator's build work incredibly well, but you could also use Fenris or Sokolov brand sets for their assault rifle and SMG weapon damage buffs, the Kyote's mask for its critical hit chance and damage buffs, or Catharsis, which delivers a weapon damage buff and survivability. All of these are great options. The FAMAS is a great weapon in this build due to its very high fire rate. Strained is still a great talent to use, but so is Optimist, as the higher rate of fire of the build really puts these two talents neck and neck for damage output. You could also use the new Ouroboros SMG, albeit this carries more risk due to its shorter range. It is an insane weapon with the build though, and at full stacks you will be melting enemies. Another all red core build, so the Banshee Pulse, Crusader Shield and even a Reviver Hive are good options for skills, and the Gunner specialization for its armor on kill. So 2 insanely high DPS builds, but ones that are punishing if you make a mistake. So is there a build that has great DPS, insane survivability, and then lets the solo player speed through content in a low risk way? Well, of course there is. Heartbreaker is the closest we have in the Division 2 to the original Division's Striker gear set. Shooting pulsed enemies adds bonus armor and weapon damage up to a max of 50%. The chest piece talent, max BPM, increases this to 100%, and the backpack talent increases bonus armor up to 200%. Both of these are great buffs, but for the solo player there are better options. In order to trigger the gear set bonus, I am running the Technician specialization for the linked laser pointer. This pulses every enemy aimed at, but not every gun can use this mod. The Carbine 7 and the Vector SMG can, which makes them great options. I am running both of these with the talent Flatline for its amplified damage. You could also use Kingbreaker, which comes with perfect flatline, but I'm not a fan of its slower fire rate. I think that the Closer chest piece is a better option than the Heartbreaker Heartbreaker chest piece. On paper, the Heartbreaker will deal more damage with its additional 50% weapon damage buff, but practically it is very hard to keep the stacks up. The Closer also adds amplified damage, which is multiplicative, and so stronger than the same amount of weapon damage buff. And to top it all off, it buffs the damage my striker drone does. For solo players, I would recommend going with the Memento backpack. Gaining weapon damage buffs, armor regeneration, skill efficiency, and bonus armor makes this a much better piece to run than the Heartbreaker backpack. With this build, I'm running 5 armor cores, which gives me a whopping 1.8 million armor and 2 skill cores. So this makes the Crusader shield a great option for the second skill. Combined with the bonus armor from the Heartbreaker gear set and Memento backpack, and this is an incredibly tanky build that puts out a ton of damage. So the big question is, which one of these builds is the best? For legendary content, Negotiator's Dilemma is the standout for its AoE damage. For the incursion, a striker's build is pretty much mandatory. And if I want to beat the seasonal leagues and farm open world content, then Heartbreakers is my build of choice. So the answer is all of them. Now, if skills are more your thing and you want to know which one is the best, then check out this video here.